Quiet now, please. Tomorrow we'll go over surface area of cylinders, but today we're going to go over prisms. Your quiz for Chapter 12 will be next week, Tuesday. Okay, so you have a week advance here. Next week, Tuesday, will be your quiz. So starting off here, surface area of prisms. You have bases. Okay, your bases are the parallel faces. Okay, so your parallel faces. Lateral faces are not the bases. So you have lateral faces and you have bases. Okay, so y'all have two bases. Those ones are parallel to each other. Okay, the lateral faces are the ones that go around the outside of your three-dimensional figure. So lateral faces intersect each other at the lateral edges. Okay, so if I look at these figures down here, your lateral faces are these rectangular pieces right here. Okay, those lateral faces will intersect at the lateral edges. Okay, so at each edge with each other. Okay, those are all parallel and congruent. Now the lateral faces intersect the base at the base edges. Okay, so your base in this prism here would be this section and this section. Okay, so you have two bases and they're parallel to each other. Your lateral face will intersect that base at that base edge. Okay. Now the height or the altitude is a perpendicular segment that joins the planes of the bases. Okay, so your height is still this perpendicular segment. Okay, it's that distance between your two bases. Alright, so a prism is a polyhedron with two parallel congruent bases. Okay, so our bases are congruent and they're parallel to each other. A right prism has the lateral edges are the height. Okay, so your height again has to be perpendicular. So we have a right prism. That's your lateral edge, and the lateral faces are rectangles. Okay, so here is your right prism on the left. Each of your lateral faces here is a rectangle. This distance between your two bases is perpendicular. Okay, creates that 90-degree angle, so that's what makes it a right prism. Okay, an oblique prism, the lateral edges are not perpendicular to the bases. Okay, and at least one lateral face is not a rectangle. So your oblique prism is this one on the right. Okay, you can see it's kind of slanted. This lateral edge here is not perpendicular to the base. Okay, that would make it a right prism. However, you still have a height of this prism. That's this side on the outside here. Okay, so that would be your height of an oblique prism, or your altitude. Alright, so before we get into surface area, we're going to talk about lateral area. Okay, lateral area is the sum of the areas of the lateral faces. Okay, so those are the ones around the outside here. Okay, the sum of all of those areas, the ones around the outside. Okay, the net is a pattern to make the solid. So below there I do have a net drawn out for a triangular prism. Okay, so it is a triangular prism because its bases are triangles. So that's how we label a prism. You have to look at the base shape, use that base to create the prism. So here our base would be this triangle. Now a net spreads it out, so it opens it up. So if you were to cut along some of those edges and lay it flat, that's the net of your prism. So here we still have this triangular base, but we opened up each of these rectangular sides, okay, to create this one larger rectangle here. Now h over here is still the height of this prism, okay? That's the distance between your two bases. That's this length right here. Okay, then we have A, B, and C. Okay, A, B, and C are that bottom length of that rectangle. So this helps us to find the lateral area of a prism. So what we can do is take the perimeter of this base, this triangle, and multiply it by the height, since that is the area of a rectangle. So we can add up all three sides, that perimeter, multiply by the height. So that's how we're going to find the lateral area, where that P value is the perimeter of the base. Okay, so that P value is the perimeter of the base, and H is the height of the prism. Okay, and that height, again, has to be the perpendicular distance between your two bases. Okay, questions on lateral area. Okay, we just need the perimeter of the base multiplied by the height of the prism to find that. Okay, then on the back, this is where we're going to get into surface area. Okay, so surface area is the sum of the lateral area and the areas of the bases. So you're adding up the area of every single side of your prism. Okay, that's all surface area is, the area of every single side of your prism. So to find surface area, we're going to take L plus 2B. Okay, or since our lateral area is P times H, this is the one I'm just going to use here. So we have P times H plus 2B. Now it is 2B because we have two bases. So we need to add on the area of two bases. Now our variables within our equation here, capital B is the area of the base. Okay, so the area of the base of the prism. P is just the same as it was for lateral area. That is the perimeter of the base. Okay, and H is the height of the prism. Okay, so we need to find the area of the base, the perimeter of the base, and the height of the prism in order to find the surface area. And again, we have this 2 here because we do have two bases. So capital B is just the area of one of those bases, and we need 2 to get every single side. Questions before I get into our examples here? So for numbers 1 and 2, we want to name each prism and then find the lateral area and the surface area for that prism. Okay, so again, naming a prism, you have to locate the base shape. Okay, use the base shape in order to name it. So since I have all rectangles here, this one is going to be called a rectangular prism. Okay, it is a rectangular prism. Its base shape is a rectangle. So when you have a rectangular prism, you can choose your bases. So for this one, I'm going to choose this side as my base. Okay, your bases have to be parallel to each other and congruent, so I'm just using those two there. So in order to find lateral area, I need to find P and H. Okay, so first I'm going to find P. Okay, and again, P is the perimeter of the base. Okay, if this shaded one here is the base, and since it's a rectangle, its opposite sides are congruent, all I have to do is add up all four sides. Okay, so 6 plus 4 plus 6 plus 4. Okay, so the perimeter of the base is 20 feet. Okay, next I want to locate the height of the prism. So that's the distance between your two bases. Okay, that distance is going to be this length here, that 9 feet. Okay, so that's the distance between this first base and its parallel base. Okay, and then I'm just going to solve for capital B right away too. Okay, since I need P, H, and B. Okay, and B is the area of the base. Okay, so you just look at your base shape. So this one over here, it's a rectangle. To find the area of a rectangle, we need to multiply base times height. Okay, so base times height of the rectangle. Okay, you do not put 9 in for H here. Okay, this is a different H. This H is the height of this rectangle. So here I would multiply 4 times 6 to find the area of that rectangle. Okay, so that's 24 feet squared. So now that I have P, H, and B, I can find the lateral area and the surface area. So again, to find lateral area, we just need P times H. So my perimeter was 20 times our H value, our height of that prism is 9. So that's 180 feet squared. So that's your area around the outside, not including your bases. Now to find surface area, we use P times H plus 2B. Well, I already found P times H. That's 180. So I can just plug in 180 for P times H. Or you can plug in P and H again if you really want to. Okay, so I would have 180 plus 2 times our capital B value is 24. So we have 180 plus 48. And that will be equal to 228 feet squared. Okay, so you just have to find the perimeter of the base, the height of your prism, and the area of the base in order to find lateral and surface area. Okay, questions on my first example here for that rectangular prism? All right, then looking at number 2. What is your base shape in this one? The triangle is your base shape. Okay, so your base shape here is going to be this triangle. Okay, again, your bases have to be parallel to each other and congruent. If you chose this bottom rectangle here, there isn't a rectangle parallel to that one. Okay, so you cannot choose that shape. So since my base shape is a triangle, this one would be called a triangular prism. Okay, so this one is a triangular prism. So now that I've located the base, I've named my prism, I can now find P, H, and B. Okay, so P again is the perimeter of the base. Well, if I look at my triangle here, I don't have this side. Okay, I only have two sides. Okay, I need the third side in order to get the perimeter. This is a right triangle. How do I solve for this third side? You can use the Pythagorean theorem. Okay, so I would have 12 squared plus 12 squared is equal to c squared, since I'm trying to find the hypotenuse. Okay, that is 144 plus 144 equals c squared. So 288 equals c squared. Take the square root of both sides. And I got that hypotenuse to be about 16.97, okay, millimeters. Now, if you notice that this was an isosceles right triangle, what else could you have used? I could have also used this. Okay, it is also a 45, 45, 90 right triangle, since it is an isosceles right triangle. Okay, so you would have just had to take your leg and multiply by the square root of 2. So now that I have all three sides of my right triangle, okay, so this is 16.97, I can add up all those sides to get the perimeter of the base. So we have 12 plus 12 plus 16.97. Okay, that is 40.97, and that is in millimeters. Okay, next I need the height of the prism. Which length is the height of your prism in this case? 8. Okay, the height of this prism is 8. Again, it has to be that distance between your two bases. Okay, just not how tall it is. Okay, it's the distance between your two bases. Okay, next I need the area of the base, or capital B. So again, my base is this triangle. How do I find the area of a triangle? Base times height divided by 2. Now again, it's just of this triangle. So if you need to, take your hand, cover up everything else. I'm finding the area of this triangle. What's your base length of the triangle? 12. What's the height of this triangle? 12. Okay? So I would have 12 times 12 divided by 2. Okay, again, don't use 8 because that's the height of the prism. Okay, you're not multiplying the base of the triangle by the height of the prism. Okay, you're multiplying by the height of the triangle itself. Okay, so this is equal to 72 millimeters squared. So now that I have each of my variables for my equations here, I can find the lateral area and the surface area. So again, lateral area is P times H. Okay, my perimeter was 40.97 times our height is 8. Okay, and I got 327.76 millimeters squared. Okay, then finding the surface area. Again, our formula for surface area is P times H plus 2B. And again, I already found P times H, so I can plug in that 327.76 for pH. And add on 2 times the area of the base, we found to be 72. Okay, and that will be about 471.76 millimeters squared. That's your surface area. Okay, so once you find P, H, and B, you can just plug those into your lateral area and surface area formulas. When you do these problems, I do want you to show your work. Now, by show your work, I don't mean you have to write out 6 plus 4 plus 6 plus 4. I do, however, want you to write out P is equal to 20 feet, okay, and H is equal to 9 feet, and B is equal to 24 feet. Okay, so write each of those out before finding the lateral area and the surface area, okay, because you will have to do that on your quiz, okay? So you'll have to show me what each of those are. Does that make sense? Any questions on how I found any of those pieces to your surface area formula or surface area itself?